قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا مولانا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم افتح علينا رحمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك وعلمنا من لدنك علما ينفعنا في الدين والدنيا يا كريم. أما بعد, inshallah we begin reading the Arabic and English of the Qasida from where we stopped inshallah about taqwa inshallah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم اغفر لشيخنا ولوالديه ولمشايخه وللحاضرين وللمسلمين أجمعين آمين. قال الناظم رحمه الله ونفعنا به وبعلومه وبكم وبعلومكم في الدارين آمين. تقوى الإله مدار كل سعادة واتباع أهوى رأس شر حبائلا. إن الطريق شريعة والطريقة وحقيقة فاسمع لها ما مثلا. فشريعة كسفينة وطريقة كالبحر ثم حقيقة در ولا. فشريعة أخذ بدين الخالق وقيامه بالأمر والنهي جلا. وطريقة أخذ بأحوط كالورع وعزيمة كرياضة متبتلا. وحقيقة لوصوله للمقصد ومشاهد نور التجلي بانجلا.
To be conscious of God is the orbit of all the truth. To be haunted by desires is the head of all evil snares. The way is Sharia, Tariqah, and then Haqiqah. Listen to my analogy of them all. Sharia is like a ship, Tariqah the sea, and Haqiqah the priceless pearls. Sharia is to follow Creator's religion, to stand by its commands, to keep away from what is prohibited. Tariqah is to be cautious as in vigilant piety, and be firm-willed as in contentment and severance. Haqiqah is to reach the destination, to openly witness the manifestation of life.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا مولانا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. The author Shaykh Zainuddīn rahimahullah ta'ala, after beginning his book with al-Basmala, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the first thing he started with, and this is now the introduction to the book. Okay? So the first thing he chose to, as you say, what he's opening the book with, other than the Islamic Shari'i opening, is the line of poetry where he says, Taqwa al-Ilahi ra'su kulli fadilatin, yes? Kulli sa'adatin. Taqwa of al-Ilah, taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of the Lord, is the peak and the head of every sa'adah. Sa'adah? Happiness, meaning spiritual happiness, ongoing happiness, glad endings, okay? So the first thing he's talking about is taqwa. And we can say in the introduction to this poem, he basically spoke about taqwa, the definition of Sharia, Tariqah, and Haqiqah, and then he went into the different sections of this book, okay? So this is now all the introduction to the book, before he's going into the sections of the book. In this book, he's going to give about 9 pieces of advice. 9 pieces of advice. If you take into consideration, inshallah ta'ala, these pieces of advice will be enough to, inshallah ta'ala, to take care of your affairs. So, the first thing he spoke about inside the book is taqwa. Why? Because taqwa, being aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is what, subhanallah, is going to help you. It's the concept that's going to help you throughout all of these different advices. If a person, in their heart, they're aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are always remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're pious in their hearts, then no matter what they approach, what they try to do, what kind of actions they try to do, what kind of spiritual, physical actions they do, it's going to be effective. Why? Because they have reached the peak of sincerity, which is taqwa. So being sincere to Allah Ta'ala, you could be sincere, you want to do something, but you don't have anything pushing you forward. When you reach the level of taqwa, when you're pious, when you're aware of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, that means you're sincere, and also, on top of being sincere, you are putting in the effort and you're looking out for any mistakes, basically. So taqwa is a very strong concept. That's why in the Quran, you find that, subhanAllah, taqwa is basically, it's the way that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala judges people. It's what Allah Ta'ala uses to, define people's ranks in the hereafter. It's what makes the difference between good and bad, is taqwa. Yes? So Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in today's class in Fajr, we mentioned and we referred to the khutbah of the Arafah before the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam passed away, his final speech. Yes? In that khutbah also, and we could say the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in this speech, it's very important for us to remember this speech, because in this speech, he summarized his message in this speech. Yes? His final advice to people. He summarized it in this speech. So, one of those things was, we said the same advice we spoke about this morning, that there's no preference for an Arab upon a non-Arab other than taqwa, illa taqwa. He said, yes? Taqwa is what makes someone better than another person. Taqwa, that's what Allah Ta'ala says, inna aqrabukum minallahi atqakum. Yes? The closest to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is the one who has the most taqwa of Allah. So what is taqwa? What does taqwa mean? The translation in your book says, be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is a good translation, but that's focusing on, basically, it's a linguistic translation, yes? So taqwa comes from ittiqa. What's ittiqa mean? To be careful, to be aware. Basically, you're watching something, yeah? You're aware of that thing, okay? Whether it's dangerous or not, you're aware, so you're always watching. That's why some people translate taqwa as fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because, if you're scared and you're aware and you kill someone, that's why some people translate it like that, even in Arabic. But if you go into the books of Tassawuf, the definition of taqwa never revolves around fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It never revolves around just watching out for the sake of watching out. No. Taqwa is always explained in a way that they show you its outcome. They show you how you're supposed to achieve it. Okay? So what does someone who has taqwa looks like? What do they look like? Taqwa, they say, is when a person, their actions, their physical actions, and the actions of their heart are all according to the guidelines of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they stay away from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prevented. Okay? So basically, doing what is right, the more you do that is right, you do the compulsory things, sunnah things, good things, and you stay away from what is wrong, bad things, haram things, and also dislike things, then you've reached taqwa. And there's so many levels in between that. So, Imam Hassan Basri would say, the people who have taqwa, the people who are pious, إِنَّمَا سُمُّوا الْمُتَّقُونَ لِأَنَّهُمْ اتَّقَوْا مَا لَا يُتَّقَى. They were only called muttaqun, people of taqwa, because they had taqwa. They were aware of what people aren't aware of, what you're not even supposed to be aware of. Okay? So it's not just staying away from haram, that's one step, yes? But generally, always being conscious, always following up, always reminding yourself, always trying to, look into what do I need to do, what do I need to change, always having that sense of muhasabah, yes? When you always, and muhasabah is only one of the advices of we'll get to inshallah ta'ala, is taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And another one of the Salaf, he says, that they were called muttaqun. Why? لأنهم تركوا الكثير من الحلال مخافة الوقوع من الحرام. They left so much halal just in order to not fall into haram. There's so much halal they use. Some of us, is it haram? Is it not haram? Maybe it's haram. We're not sure. We'll do Bismillah. That's not having a very high level of taqwa. Taqwa would be that you're always trying to make sure that what you're doing is fine. You're always asking. Especially you have the basic knowledge in Sharia. You're asking, let's say, what to eat, what to drink. How to pray, how to make wudu, the basic things. And if you're not sure, you go and ask. Anything that's mustahab, you try to do. Anything dislike, you try to stay away from. You're doubtful about something, you stay away from it. That's basically a person who has taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, of course, a person trying to reach a really deep level of taqwa alone is very difficult. Why? Because you start to prioritize things and, subhanallah, let's say, do things according to what you feel is the most safe, but you might not have the most experience in what to leave, what not to leave, what to do, what not to do. That's why always having guidance, being under advice of a shaykh is also very important if you want to have proper taqwa. Now, that's why Imam al-Ghazali, when he speaks about taqwa in Ihya Ulumuddin, he says that many people they will have taqwa on a specific thing and be very strict about it, and they neglect the most dangerous of things. They neglect, let's say, having taqwa about thinking about bad about other people, allowing bad thoughts to come to your heart, having taqwa about subhanallah, all the different illnesses of the heart. That's something that you have a lot of taqwa about. So taqwa is this concept of staying away and doing at the same time. So doing what is good, staying away from what is bad, and there's so many levels in doing that. Having taqwa and perfecting taqwa is something you can only understand throughout your journey. But having taqwa and asking Allah Ta'ala to make you a person taqwa and trying to strive towards that is what is going to help you. And let's say it's the most simple advice that summarizes the whole journey of Tassawuf, the whole journey of Islam. Yes? Staying away from what is bad. Inside that you can find that it includes staying away from haram, staying away from what is dislike. It includes working on your heart, yes, heart diseases, things like that. It includes, helping others. It includes, the good actions of the hearts and not doing the bad actions of the hearts. Hasad, hiqd, qunut min rahmatillah ta'ala, al-ya's, and not having no hope with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one of the sins of the heart. You can't have that. Having too much doubt in your heart. These are all things that you should stay away from. Through taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it says, taqwa al-ilah, madaru kulli sa'adatin, madaru kulli sa'ad. What's madaru min Arabic? That's basically all types of happiness. In reality, they all evolve around taqwa. Around taqwa. Why? Because like we said, once we read this whole book, we'll understand the first line better. We'll understand that really having taqwa is something that we could add to every single section of this book. It's something that, subhanallah, that you can take with you in any circumstance, in any situation, in any mas'ala, any matter. You'll find that taqwa should always be there. That's why having taqwa of Allah Ta'ala is, subhanallah, the peak of ibadah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in the hadith, Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says, Inna Allah yuhibb al-abd al-taqi, what is it? Al-naqi, al-taqi. Yes, three things. Allah Ta'ala loves three things from a slave. This is hadith, yeah? Allah Ta'ala loves the slave who is taqi. What's taqi mean? Has taqwa. Okay? Number two? What's naqi mean? It's pure, yeah? So some people, they're full of darkness. No matter how, they do good things, mashallah, they're really good. But subhanallah, they're not clean inside, yeah? There's so much that they have to get rid of. And some people, they're very pure people, very simple people, yes? SubhanAllah, you sit with them, their heart's clean, they have nothing against people, you sit with them, SubhanAllah, you don't feel like you come out with, baggage, okay? People who are clean in their hearts, inside. So Allah Ta'ala loves someone who has taqwa. He does what's right, he stays away from what's wrong. And he's also clean inside. And then, al-khafi. What's khafi mean? Light or secret. Yeah? So someone who goes about with their daily actions without trying to make a show of it. Yes? Someone who, subhanallah, they're not noticed. Okay? Doesn't mean you hide yourself. Yeah? Try to not let anyone see. That's not, because sometimes over-hiding can be a sense of showing off as well. Yes? But khafi means a person who isn't noticed. He goes upon their daily life and he doesn't even He doesn't try to be noticed or not be noticed. He just goes along with his life, and he does it. He's so sincere that people wouldn't notice him. You see him in the street, you don't know this person, mashallah, does dhikr all day, and he's aware of Allah Ta'ala. He doesn't, if he goes home and he interacts with his family, you find them the best of people in their house. In work, mashallah, they don't backbite anyone, they don't do anything bad. And this person might have such a high rank in Iman, and they're a simple person. No one thinks anything about them, yes? So that person is khafi, yes? So Allah Ta'ala loves these three things in a person, yes? To be taqi, naqi, and khafi. Now, taqwa is one of them. The first one, yes? And like Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, taqwa is what Allah Ta'ala uses to consider people better than others. Now.
تقوى الإله مدار كل سعادة واتباع أهوى رأس شر حبائل.
Okay, now he also wants to summarize in this line of poetry. If you want to summarize everything in one advice, what would it be? Ittaqullah. One advice, yes? He's saying to you, let's say you don't want to go through the whole book and it's long for you. Summarizing the whole book in one word would be Ittaqillah, would be to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ وَصَّيْنَا الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ وَإِيَّاكُمْ أَنِ اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ. We have advised the people of the book before you, and also you. Advice from Allah Ta'ala, not just Sayyidina Rasulullah, but even from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran to every single person is to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be aware of Allah Ta'ala. Okay, so that's the advice that summarizes all the good actions. What's the second advice? He wants to summarize what to stay away from. Okay, the second line of poetry is going to be summarizing everything that you should stay away from that you'll come across in this book. He's going to mention in the second half of this line of poetry. He says,
واتباع أهوى رأس شر حبائل.
واتباع أهوى رأس شر حبائل. What does that mean? Ittiba' means to follow, okay? Following, what's ahwa? Desires are basically not just a desire, okay? But things that your nafs wants and they go against what Allah Ta'ala wants. Okay? So al-hawa would be things that your nafs wants and Allah Ta'ala doesn't want. Going behind them, following them, meaning when you follow, it means that there's someone who leads you, someone who pulls you. You're not in charge anymore, okay? So being led by them, letting your ahwa and your desires control you. What makes you do good is because there's some type of hawa in it. What makes you stay away from bad is some type of hawa in it. If it wasn't for hawa, if it wasn't for desire, you wouldn't do good, you wouldn't stay away from bad. Yes? Having that mindset and being like that is he says, the peak, the head of all dangers. Yes? Is the head of all dangers. Why? Because subhanallah, hawa, okay, or desire, if you look at it, it's not something physical that you can just work on. Okay? What is it? If you look in reality, desires or hawa is something that comes out. It's basically the outcome of being attached to dunya, outcome of disliking what Allah Ta'ala likes, outcome of the ill nafs, different levels of the nafs al-amara bis-su', the nafs that orders you to do bad. It's also the outcome of subhanallah, mixing with bad people, for example, mixing with people who only talk about dunya, gets you attached to hawa, yes? The outcome of all of this is the same, it's hawa, yes? So hawa really is, subhanallah, something that only happens when you do things that are illnesses of the heart. It all leads to hawa, different types of hawa. So if you stay away from hawa, meaning that your desires no longer control you, but you're in control of your desires. You're able to be strong and firm. You always doubt your desires, okay? Not doubt yourself, but doubt your desires. Meaning that, wallahi, I feel like doing this. Doesn't mean I just go and do it, yeah? I take my time. I ask Allah Ta'ala. I make dua, pray istikhara, ask my Shaykh, for example, whatever it is. But I try to, make sure that I'm aware of my desires. Just going with the flow, just going with your feelings 100% all the time, just because you feel like doing it, is very dangerous. Why? Because you're following and hawa. So he says that having fear of Allah Ta'ala, or being aware of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Okay? So being aware, whenever you do something, you don't do something, aware of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Always be in this world as if Allah Ta'ala is in front of you. And that's what tasawwuf is, yes? What is ihsan in the hadith? أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه, yes? To worship Allah Ta'ala as if you see Him. فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه يراك. If you can't see Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and the scholars say one of the meanings of this is that if you can't reach the level where you feel like you can see Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, then at least be in a level where you are aware that Allah Ta'ala sees you. But the real peak of ihsan would be to state that if you can actually, as if you can see Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, you would never do anything wrong. You would always be aware, yes? So that's what taqwa is. And then, so having taqwa of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and then staying away from hawa. And the definition of this both will come inshallah throughout the book, is the advice that summarizes the whole journey of tasawwuf. That's why the author here, in one line of poetry, he summarized them both. That's why this book, I said, is very powerful, you can understand it. Started with Bismillah, with Alhamd and Salah. He did it in a very beautiful way, in a very short, 2 lines of poetry. And then after that, he went into 2 advices that you find in the Quran, you find in the Sunnah, that you find in all texts of Islam. No matter what you open, following Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, having taqwa of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and staying away from hawa. Now he's going to explain another concept, okay, which is very important for anyone who wants to understand tasawwuf. He's going to explain 3 things. The first is tariqah, the second is sharia, and the third is haqiqah. What do these 3 things mean, and what are their importance in tasawwuf?
إن الطريق شريعة وطريقة وحقيقة فاسمع لها ما مثلا.
It says al-tariq. What's tariq mean in Arabic? It's a path. And of course, we're not talking about any physical path, so immediately we're talking about a spiritual path, yes? A path meaning something that requires steps, requires effort, that is going to be a journey, there's going to be progression, there's going to be going forward and stepping back, and people falling, and people failing, and people reaching, people not reaching. It's all a path, okay? The path that takes you towards Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, okay, what does it say? It summarizes, or it can be summarized in 3 things. You need 3 elements of this path to reach Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Without having one of them, it wouldn't work, okay? 3 things you need to reach Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and these 3 things are the 3 main focuses in tasawwuf, okay? And then he says, what are they? Tariqah, sharia, and haqiqah. Okay. He says, tariq, or the road, has 3 elements. One of them is tariqah, which is the same word as tariq. What does that mean? So, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says in the hadith, إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى فمن كانت هجرته إلى الله ورسوله فهجرته إلى الله ورسوله. Whoever migrated to Allah Ta'ala and His Messenger, his migration is for Allah Ta'ala and His Messenger. When you repeat the same thing twice, what does that mean? It means in Arabic that there's something that you're trying to, get people's attention to that you're not mentioning. You're trying to let people use their mind. So when he first said, whoever migrates to Allah Ta'ala, he has migrated to Allah Ta'ala. What does it mean? Whoever migrates with their intention to Allah Ta'ala, they migrate to Allah Ta'ala, being that they're rewarded but for migrating to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. When he says here, tariqah is tariqah, haqiqah, sharia, he means, tariq means the physical and the way towards Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, the practical way, is summarized in tariqah, meaning the method, the following, the guidelines that the shuyukh have put down together in the history of Islam. Okay, there's what we read and what we hear in all of these details, that is known as tariqah. The first thing he says is tariqah. The second one is sharia, and the last one is haqiqah. So tariqah means the way. Okay, sharia means sharia? Huh? Law basically, or the physical side, and then haqiqah means reality. Okay. He's going to talk about the definition of them inshallah, then we'll start explaining the definition.
إن الطريق شريعة وطريقة وحقيقة فاسمع لها ما مثلا. فشريعة كسفينة وطريقة كالبحر ثم حقيقة در غلا. فشريعة أخذ بدين الخالق وقيامه بالأمر والنهي انجلى وطريقة أخذ بأحوط كالورع وعزيمة كرياضة متبتلة وحقيقة لوصوله للمقصدين مشاهد نور التجلي بالجنة.
The way is Sharia, Tariqah, and then Haqiqah. Listen to my analogy of them all. Sharia is like a ship, Tariqah the sea, and Haqiqah the priceless goods. Sharia is to follow Creator's religion, to stand by its commands, to keep away from what is prohibited. Tariqah is to be cautious as in vigilant piety, and be firm-willed as in contentment and severance. Haqiqah is to reach the destination, to openly witness the manifestation of God.
Okay. So, let's start from Sharia, inshallah, which is the most simple. Sharia, basically now, is not just law, but it's every single thing that is clear, physical, the text, following the guidelines. A, B, C, basically. Allah Ta'ala says don't do this, it's haram. The fuqaha say it's haram, we don't do it. Okay? Our belief in Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is 1, 2, 3. We believe Allah Ta'ala exists, He has certain attributes, He doesn't have certain attributes, that's it. Following the clear guidelines, the things that any person can open the library and access. These types of information are all here referred to as Sharia. Okay? The clear guidelines, the clear side of Islam, the things that are visual and able for anyone to access, the pieces of information basically. Okay? Now, without them, people will be lost, because you can't refer people and you can't tell everyone to rely on, let's say, their feelings, their emotions. Someone who calls himself a shaykh, you're not sure about them yet or whatever, it's very difficult. So having these guidelines, knowing what is agreed upon from the fuqaha that it's haram, knowing the things that are a place of difference in the fuqaha, and you know what's flexible in Islam and what isn't, knowing the basic things you have to believe in Islam and what not to do, these things must be written down in clear language, okay? So that everyone, any Muslim from any rank of society, from any background, can understand and follow. Sharia itself is enough to get you to Jannah. Enough to get you to Jannah. If you follow the guidelines, you do what's halal, haram, you do your salah according to one another, for example, you don't do anything that is agreed upon that's haram, you will enter Jannah, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? And even if you worship Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, because it's haram and you're scared of falling into haram, being punished, and you want to get a certain outcome, you want to get rewards, you will enter Jannah, inshallah ta'ala, and you'll get that. Okay? That's the basic guideline. Okay? But is that everything? Is that what Allah Ta'ala created us for? No, it's not. Okay? Yes, it has a lot to do with what Allah Ta'ala created us for. But Sharia is only the guidelines. It's only, the physical side of things. Okay? Now, opposite to Sharia is a tariq. Tariqah now is everything, just like we said in Sharia, everything in Islam, but from the side of looking into what is meant for you. Okay? So now it's not the physical side, it's the spiritual side of all of this. The spiritual side of all of this. So when you pray, according to Sharia, you have wudu, you make intention, you do ruku', you do sujood, you do tashahhud, you do salam. When you pray according to tariqah, you enter the musalla as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in front of you, Jannah is on your right, Jahannam is on your left. Okay? When you make ruku', as if you've entered into some place that's very sacred. When you get up from ruku', the whole dunya falls off your back. Okay? You're praying according to tariqah. So many details. Read Hidāyat al-Adhkiyā by Imām Zainuddīn. He goes through all the doors of all the sections of fiqh, just like the Fuqaha, but from this perspective, from this side. What you're supposed to, what's the outcome supposed to be from your salah? What is it meant to be that we do in salah? What's salah supposed to achieve? Yeah? This is all tariqah. Okay. Why do we focus on, reading certain things, doing certain things a certain way? Even our awrad, not just because we're reading our awrad, but we read them for a certain outcome. There's certain concepts that we keep on hammering into people. Why? This is all part of Tariqah. It's all a part of the spiritual side of Islam. So all of the same things in Sharia, they are the same things in Tariqah, but subhanAllah, just from a different perspective, a different view. So, can we live without Sharia? You can't. If someone says, I'll just follow the spiritual side and I have nothing to do with the Sharia, with the Zahir, of course, that means they are a liar. Why? Because the Tariqah does not go against Sharia. Anything that interferes with Sharia, Sharia is there to tell us the guidelines, the boundaries. Something interferes with it, it means it's wrong. Yes? That's why it's there for. What's the point of it? Sharia, the point of it is to keep people inside the boundaries, to not go outside the boundaries. So the reason Sharia is there is for this. And then Tariqah is basically to tell people what's behind that, what Allah Ta'ala wants from you. The spiritual side, yes? The meaning of ibadah. A lot of people I've sat with, they've worshipped Allah Ta'ala for 10, 20, 30 years. They never thought about praying other than getting really big pillars of Jannah. Never thought about it in their life, anything else. There's so much more to Islam other than that, yes? Only through Tariqah you can do that, yes? And of course, Tariqah in this concept means, it also means the teachings of all the scholars of Tassawuf from the time of Sayyidina Rasulullah until today. All the teachings, whether it's Imam Junayd, whether it's Imam Abu Hamid Ghazali, whether it's Imam Abdur-Rahman Zaylai, others, all their teachings are about perfecting this from different angles, but they're focusing on Tariqah, on the spiritual side. Okay? To get to Allah Ta'ala, you need both. You need both. To reach Allah Ta'ala means to reach what? We said in this morning's verse, means to reach a state of knowledge about Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, a close state of connection with Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, not a physical state. Okay? But if you follow them both, what would the outcome be? It would be that you start to learn things that aren't mentioned before that you can't learn through the books. It means that you start to have your own personal connection with Allah Ta'ala, just as that sir that you have will start to increase. It means that you'll start to see things from a different perspective. It means that you start to understand things that you aren't able to put on pen and paper. Okay? So, on pen and paper we say that salah, for example, you're supposed to pray to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, it's supposed to give you a certain feeling, it's supposed to stop you from doing certain things, it's supposed to be a connection, you're supposed to imagine that you're entering the hadra. But subhanAllah, if you keep on following and following, you will understand other things behind that. You'll understand other levels of connection. You'll understand more about Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, about the names of Allah Ta'ala, of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, things that you'll naturally develop and understand just by following. Okay? So haqiqah is the outcome of both Sharia and Tariqah. It's the reality, and that's basically the end. That's the end. What we want to reach, receiving Allah Ta'ala, is to reach a sense of reality, of understanding what we're here for, of being close to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, of being the slaves of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, of understanding what we are able to understand. So Tariqah and Sharia will take you towards Allah Ta'ala until you reach al-Haqiqah. So Haqiqah, what will it be? It will be having the proper understanding and belief and following in Islam, and reaching the outcome that leads you to connecting in a deeper level with Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. That would be al-Haqiqah. That would be al-Haqiqah. So Tariqah, Sharia and Haqiqah. In reality, the scholars say they're all the same thing. Yes, they're all Islam. They're all Islam. Someone who's reached Sharia is in Islam. Someone who's on Tariqah is in Islam, and someone who's reached Haqiqah is in Islam. But subhanAllah, there's a huge difference between them. Yes? Just like there's a difference between a mu'min, a Muslim and a Muhsin, same thing. The same thing, yes? A person who is just following the physical side, the guidelines, is only in the beginning of their path. A person who is following Tariqah has now started to really take the path seriously. A person who has reached this sense of usul has now achieved some of what Allah Ta'ala wants from them, and is able to share that experience with others as well. So the way to Allah Ta'ala is by achieving these three.
إن الطريق شريعة وطريقة وحقيقة فاسمع لها ما مثلا فشريعة كسفينة وطريقة كالبحر ثم حقيقة در الغلا.
Now, so say, to summarize it, let's give you an example, he says, okay? He says, Sharia is like what? It's like a ship, okay? What's a ship there for? You're going to travel in the water anyway. What's a ship there for? To protect you, to hold you, to carry you, okay? So, if the ship has a hole in it, you would sink, for example, okay? So, yeah. But is the ship what carries you? Is the ship what gets you back? A physical ship, if you build a ship and, on the way here, there was a town that has a ship. Did you guys see it? There's a town that has a ship built in it, but it's in the middle of the outback. Okay? A ship itself can't do anything. Yes? And that's why the people of Nuh alayhi salam, so why are you building a ship in the middle of the desert? What's the point? He says, yes, it's not because of the ship itself. Yes, there's something behind it. If you understand things as if it's the ship itself, you're not going to get anywhere. That's why the people of Nuh, they went astray, right? They thought he was building a ship for the sake of being a ship. Nah? They didn't see what's behind it. If you want to deal with Sharia the same way, I'm just going to pray and do my things, that's it, as if I've learned, it's madhab, this, whatever, that's it, khalas, that's all I'm doing in my life, and that's it, it's going to take you to Allah, you're not going to reach ever. Yeah? You're just in the ship. But then you need water to make the ship go, yes? Tariqah, he said, is like the sea or the ocean. That's the one down there behind us. That's how Tariqah is, yeah? It's huge. And subhanAllah, so many waves, and some people, they'll drown, some people won't, subhanAllah. What takes the ship once it's removed is the waves, yes? SubhanAllah. Is the ocean itself. So, Tariqah is like an ocean. It carries you towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you need a ship because you yourself aren't able to enter the ocean without guidelines. You get lost, you drown. Once you have these guidelines, the basic guidelines, you know how to pray, you know the basics in Islam, and then you have someone to teach you, you're able to go into the deepest end of the ocean, inshallah. And are we just going to be going in the ocean in circles? No. This ocean is not like any other ocean. Yes, this ocean is full of secrets. Yes, it's full of pearls and things to get out of this. Hadiqah is this thing that you get out of it. The pearls and other things that you take from the deep end of the ocean, that's what Hadiqah is. Summarize it.
فشريعة كسفينة وطريقة كالبحر ثم حقيقة در الغلا فشريعة أخذ بدين الخالق وقيامه بالأمر والنهي انجلى.
Then he's going to summarize it. He's saying, now explaining to you what Sharia Haqiqah is. He says, Sharia is to hold on to the religion of the Khaliq, of the Creator subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what Sharia is. Just like we said before. And then?
وقيامه بالأمر والنهي انجلى.
Doing what is you're ordered to do and not doing what you're told not to do. That's it.
وطريقة أخذ بأحوط كالورع وعزيمة كرياضة متبتلة.
He says Tariqah is more than that. He says like doing things that are optional. Okay? Why is he saying that? Basically, once you do something that's optional, okay, you have a sense of searching for something beyond the compulsory. Okay? It's not because the optional ibadah is just the definition of Tariqah. No. He's saying an example of someone who's for Tariqah is someone who's searching for what's beyond the compulsory thing. Someone who's not just trying to do the basic minimum. Someone who doesn't see Islam as 1, 2, 3. Someone who doesn't see that I have to do this and that's it. Strict guidelines. Dealing with it as just a book of law. Someone who's in Tariqah doesn't see it like that. Yes, so they'll be doing ahwa. They'll be doing things that are not compulsory. They'll be staying away from things just to be careful. Okay? That's an example. Just an example. But like I said, the definition of Tariqah would be the spiritual side of all of these things.
وطريقة أخذ بأحوط كالورع وعزيمة كرياضة متبتلة.
What's a riyada mean? Riyada is? Huh? Exercise, sports, subhanAllah. Riyada in Tassawuf, okay, and it's been used in history, is, are those the things you do to work on yourself. Discipline yourself, self-discipline, yes? So, it includes any type of actions that work on you from the inside. So riyādah could be someone doing i'tikaf, could be someone in khalwa for a long time. Someone, even what we're doing now is a type of riyādah. Yes, you're getting out of your comfort zone and you're trying to achieve something. Yes, that's all the type of riyādah. So these are examples of someone who is following tariqah, someone who is trying to achieve what's beyond just the general guidelines of Sharia.
وطريقة أخذ بأحوط كالورع وعزيمة كرياضة متبتلة وحقيقة لوصوله للمقصد ومشاهد نور التجلي بالجلال وحقيقة لوصوله للمقصد ومشاهد نور التجلي بالجلال.
الحقيقة is reaching the destination, the goal, reaching where Allah Ta'ala wanted you to reach. Okay.
وحقيقة لوصوله للمقصد ومشاهد نور التجلي بالجلال.
And then after that, the person will see the light of tajalli. You would see and understand, and you'll be able to witness how Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has manifestation of His light in everything. You'll be able to understand this only after reaching Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, or after reaching it, say, a certain level. Okay? Only then you'll be able to understand. To do that, you need Sharia and you need Tariqah. Now.
من رام درا للسفينة يركب ويغوص بحرا ثم در حصلا.
Those who desire the pearls, let them be on board of the ship. Plunge into the sea and then obtain the pearl.
Allah. So if you want to get a pearl, you need to do 3 things. Okay? 3 things. First of all, you need to get onto the ship. Yes? The ship has to go into the middle of the sea. And then, what do you have to do? You have to leave the ship and dive into the ocean. Okay? Doesn't mean leave Sharia, don't do what's haram, it doesn't mean that. Okay? What he means is you have to, later on in your life, after you have perfected Sharia to an extent, okay, then you have to prioritize. And your connection with Allah Ta'ala has to increase. You can't just be doing your tariqah in a way that's very similar to fiqh, just doing the 1, 2, 3 your whole life, that's it. No. You have to let it sink into your heart. It has to be something that is a priority in your life. To the extent that you've dived into it, basically. Yes? So what we can say, basically, is that you've reached a state in your sailing in the ocean that you're no longer scared of the ocean. The ocean no longer is something dangerous towards you. If you dive into it, you won't get lost anymore. You have enough protection for it. Okay? You're experiencing it. That, in that case, you dive into the ocean, yes? Dive into the ocean. And then, subhanAllah, you're able to get the pearls.
وكذا الطريقة والحقيقة يا أخي من غير فعل شريعة لن تحصل.
نعم. And this is also طريقة حقيقة without Sharia you would never get it. Yes? If a person doesn't want to follow it, and you see, that's what is the definition of a false Sufi is. Someone who has nothing to do with the Sharia at all. Yes? All the guidelines of Islam are behind their back. They don't care. Just the heart is enough and that's all they do. Of course, that's false tasawwuf, yes? Someone would say, it's okay if you don't pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's fine. As long as your heart's clean, yeah? These kind of things that we hear today. People who say that, we don't, we have no boundaries, and use false terms like that, there's no judging, meaning that we don't care, you can do any haram you want, it's fine, we accept it. Yes? We accept people no matter how bad they are, but in our presence, in our gatherings, we have to have Sharia boundaries, yes? We can't do haram. We can't openly accept haram, yes? You can't have someone drinking here and someone doing that here and just sitting together in a majlis of liquor. No. There has to be a sense of protection, a sense of respecting the law of Allah. Why? Because Allah Ta'ala, He's the one who's under the Sharia. Yes? The Prophets of Allah Ta'ala, they used to rule the Sharia. They used to use it. This used to be what they used to use to rule against people. Yes? Halal and haram. Do and don't do. So, we respect these boundaries, especially if you're Sufis, respect them even more. Why? Because these are boundaries of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these are boundaries of your Lord. If you love Allah ta'ala, why would you not follow His boundaries? Yes? So you should accept the boundaries happily. And yes, doesn't mean when we say we respect these boundaries that we are super strict in them. Okay? Like I said, there has to be a balance that we'll cover later on, inshallah ta'ala, between understanding what is clear-cut in Islam and what isn't. What is known as Qadiri, there's no difference about, and what isn't. Okay? Things that there's no difference about in Islam, things that are agreed upon in the scholars, you have to be strict about it. There's no other way around. Okay? Things that are a matter of difference between fuqaha, the scholars of fiqh. This person says it's permissible, this one says it doesn't. Okay? In that situation, it's a bit more flexible. Okay? If you don't know what to do, and one says it's haram, one says it's halal, then yes, it might be better to stay away just to be careful. But in some cases, it's acceptable, permissible, and even it might be recommended in some cases to take an easy opinion. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's why we always teach in fiqh that it's permissible to take from any of the four madhahib. Any of the four madhahib are all accepted in fact. There's nothing wrong with being Hanafi, Shafi'i, Malik, Hanbali, or even if you're following a madhab, to sometimes take from the other madhab, it's fine according to the majority of fuqaha. And some scholars put conditions to that, but it's generally accepted. So that's not an issue. But going against the ijma', the agreement of fuqaha, would be something that we have to be strict about, for example. Okay. Another example in aqidah would be someone doesn't have to go into the details of aqidah and look into this person mubtadi' or not, but it wouldn't be acceptable, for example, for a person to say things about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that go against the fundamentals of Islam. Say Allah ta'ala, for example, has a physical body and is sitting in a certain place. That would be unacceptable. We couldn't accept that, yeah? That would be going against Sharia, against Tariqah, against all of this. So we have to know what's known as a farq wal-ayn. Farq wal-ayn, what's that? The compulsory things upon every individual that no Muslim is allowed to not know. Okay? And basically it means you have to know how to do the actions in your day that you face every single day. So if you're just praying and making wudu and fasting once a year and doing zakat once a year, you have to know how to do these things. That's it. If you're going to do hajj, you have to know how to do hajj, for example. If you want to buy and sell, you have to know buy and sell. If someone can't say, I don't know any Islamic rules about buying and selling, I'm going to go to any transaction, I don't care, I'm going to ask what's halal and haram, and then wish that Allah Ta'ala puts any barakah in the money, accepts it. No, it wouldn't be the case. So we have to know farq al-ayn, respect all four madhahib, know the basics, study something basic in these sciences, and then after that, a person, alhamdulillah, is able to protect themselves from falling into anything that goes against the Sharia. So like I said, your journey with Allah Ta'ala won't work, there will be no tariqah, no haqiqah, unless you start with Sharia, you start perfecting your life, you have basic teaching. That's why, alhamdulillah, in our classes we teach fiqh, of course we teach aqidah, we teach other things. There's always teaching, yes? Even when we teach books and Tassawuf, we add elements of al-ilm and Sharia to them. We have to know these things, yeah? It's not acceptable that we don't know, we have no idea whatsoever about our deen. That's not acceptable, yes? And then after that, khalas, the majority of our time will be working in perfecting these through al-Tariqah.
وكذا الطريقة والحقيقة يا أخي من غير فعل شريعة لن تحصل فعليه تزيين لظاهره الجلي بشريعة لينور قلب مجتلى.
نعم. So he's saying you need to perfect your outside with the Sharia. Yes? You need to perfect your outside with the Sharia. You can't be, coming to the majlis of the hadra with haram clothing or drinking alcohol or something like that. It's not acceptable, yeah? That's all from the outside. Without looking into your heart, maybe your heart's clean, we don't know. But openly doing that is a very bad indication that your heart might not be clean. That's just from the outside. You need to protect your outside with the Sharia. And then protect your inside with the Tariqah. If one of them is unprotected, it doesn't work. If your outside is unprotected, and you didn't mean it, it was by accident, people will think bad about you. And people will think bad about the people you associate with. And you'll be a reason for people to look down upon the people of ihsan al-tasbih. That's one thing. Okay? And if you meant it, it's even worse. Okay? And if you don't take care of your inside, okay, you immediately will fall into riyah. You'll be showing off. You'll be pretending and making people say things about you that aren't true. Why? Because you're not working on yourself. People think about you and praise you about, say things that about you that are not true. You should work up to being that standard. Yes, you should work in your heart also to reach that standard.
فعليه تزيين لظاهره الجلي بشريعة لينور قلب مجتلى وتزول عنه ظلمة كي يمكن لطريقة في قلبه أن تنزل.
We're saying first, correct the Sharia so that you are, you've cleaned out the minimum and your body is able to accept the tariqah and let it do its work from inside.
ولكل واحدهم طريق من طرق يختاره فيكون من ذا واصلا.
Now the shuyukh in Islam since Sayyidina Rasulullah today, how many murabbis have there been? How many shuyukh? You have different types of advice. Every one of them has his own tariq. Yes. Every one of them has his own method in tarbiyah and tasbih. Every shaykh has his own unique way of bringing people. What does that mean? It means the main founders and leaders of throughout history. Imam al-Junayd, yes. Al-Imam Sayyidina al-Qadiri, Imam Shadili, Imam al-Badawi, Imam al-Rifa'i. They have unique ways. They all had their own method of bringing people towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every one of them, yes. And there's hundreds, other ones we don't even know about. There's names we don't know about. People passed away, yes. They all had connections and chains and they did so much work. I was reading, subhanAllah, in the history, I believe, in the Ottoman Empire, in some studies, they said that there was over 2,000 zawiyas in Turkey, just in, I don't know how many years, 2,000 zawiyas just in a very small area in Turkey, 2001 city, 2,000 zawiyas. And every zawiyah has a shaykh in charge of it, doing work with the murideen. SubhanAllah, there's so many people in history. We don't know about this, yeah? People have came and gone, as Imam Sayyid says, "Kam nabiyyin wa waliyyin," how many prophets and how many awliya have passed and came, and they've all died, subhanAllah, gone. And they all left an effect on people. Yes? So every shaykh has his own unique tariq. Yes? Why? Because we said everyone has special connection with Allah Ta'ala. When someone reaches Allah Ta'ala and has the level of this shuyukh, they're able to let others inherit it. They're able to pass it on, and that comes from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So it would be effective in helping people reach Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So everyone has their own unique tariqah. There's so many history, subhanallah. One thing people who've been attending with us throughout the years, we try to raise awareness about the history of their lives, the seer of these awliya, and there's so many that we haven't covered. But subhanallah, they all have something unique to them that comes from Allah Ta'ala, and it shows you the connection they had with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
ولكل واحدهم طريق من طرق يختاره فيكون من ذا واصلا كجلوسه بين الأنام مربيا وككثرة الأوراد كالصوم الصلاة.
So what are the differences you'll find between different tariqahs out there, for example? Okay? You'll find, I'll stick to the Madam today, you find that they're very different in the approach, the side, the angle they approach from. So some of them, he said, would be, sitting with the murids, lots of gatherings and classes 24/7. Others would be giving a murid tons of awrad and dhikr to do day and night. And the dhikr, they say, would do its work, within the person out. Okay? And other people, there'll be an element of both. Some shuyukh, they'll be focusing on, on very strict, things that go against the nafs to really, force the nafs out of its comfort zone, subhanAllah. It's different ways of tarbiyah. Okay? Some shuyukh will focus on, the strict side. Others focus on bringing people to Allah Ta'ala through the beauty and ease of Islam. Yes? The beauty and ease of Islam through the soft side. These are all different ways. And they've worked, and they've been effective. And they change according to the shaykh and what is inherited, and they also change, the details of them change according to the time and age that the shaykh is in. Yes? You have to do what works with people. Because you're trying to help the people. You're not doing a tariq for yourself. You are now trying to serve people. You're trying to get them close to Allah Ta'ala. And you should also take in consideration what works for them, but of course, through your own perspective and through what you have received from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala.
كجلوسه بين الأنام مربيا وككثرة الأوراد كالصوم الصلاة وكخدمة للناس والحمل الحطب.
Khidmah. This is one of the most amazing. In history, we find some of the shuyukh, the first thing they would start with is khidmah. Okay? Would be to destroy your nafs, to make sure you do a quick destruction to your nafs, serve people. Okay? In the hikam, we mentioned the story of one of the awliya. Some say it's Sayyid Ahmad al-Rifai, others say it's a different wali. Someone came to him and said, I want to become a murid of you. I want to join your circle. He said, okay, come tomorrow and we can start inshallah. First when he came, all the murids went inside to the Zaylai of the Musalla and they were doing dhikr. He said, you don't come inside. He said, well, stay at the door and you have to make sure you pick people's shoes up and organize them. So he said, La ilaha illallah. Yeah? What does that mean? La ilaha illallah means, when something shocks you, you say La ilaha illallah. So Ahmad al-Rifai said to him, that's shirk. This is associating partners with Allah. I said, how is that shirk? I said, La ilaha illallah. He says, you saying La ilaha illallah is shirk. Why? So you didn't say it out of the oneness of Allah Ta'ala, yes? You said it out of witnessing yourself and seeing yourself to be higher than that range. So some of them, khidmah would be the first thing they start with. Imam al-Ghazali, his journey started with khidmah. Yes? Started with khidmah. When he met the Shaykh, he made him do things like that. The stories of, the Shabab who attended with Shaykh Jibreel, remember the stories he told us, subhanAllah. SubhanAllah, many of the scholars, they started from khidmah. Others know this, they started from Hidāyat al-Adhkiyā, to Khadwa. There's so many different ways. They all work. But SubhanAllah, it's about breaking the nafs and surrendering to Allah Ta'ala. No longer feeling that you're in control of your destiny, of where you're going to end up. You be in control of yourself, think that you know what's right and wrong in life. But don't feel like you know everything. Don't feel like you're the one who's going to put the dots on the letters in Arabic. That's not the case.
وكخدمة للناس والحمل الحطب لتصدق بمحصل متمولا من رام أن يسلك طريق الأولياء فليحفظن هذا الوصايا عاملا.
And I'm saying if you want to follow the way of the awliya, okay, he's not going to give you any piece of advice in this book from his head. We said he summarized, I think we mentioned 5-6 different books this morning, or even more than that. He summarized Ihya al-Ulumuddin all in this book. He summarized Awarif al-Ma'arif, he summarized Hidāyat al-Hidāyā, he summarized the books of Imam Ghazali, books of Imam Sahrawardi, books of Imam Qushayri. He summarized them all in this book. So if you want to follow Tariqah al-Awliyā, there's 9 pieces of advice that's going to give us. 9 pieces of advice that start from next class, inshallah ta'ala. They start with, of course, the Tawbah, inshallah ta'ala. And then we'll continue. That's the end of the chapter. صلى الله عليه وسلم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك اللهم اغفر لنا اجمعين وبالمسلمين منا المسلمين اللهم اغفر لنا يا رب العالمين ذنوبنا كلها اللهم اغفر لنا كل ذنب وذنبناه يا رب العالمين اللهم انا نسالك الهدى والتقى على ما رضينا اللهم جنبنا الفواحش والمحن واصلح منا ما ظهر وما بطن اللهم انا نسالك من كل خير خزائنه بيدك صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى اله وصحبه اجمعين.